What's unique about this project is building the replacement for existing underground circuits at this location. This is a main segment that delivers power to all of our customers. This is really the backbone of our electrical distribution infrastructure in our service territory.
The project really came into conception in 2009 timeframe when they detected some issues with the underground distribution system here.
Here we've got 2¼ miles of the Patapsco River to cross, and in the middle of that is the Baltimore shipping channel, the main shipping channel for all of the commercial vessels that come into and out of the Baltimore harbor.
When we started looking at ways to replace the cables that exist under the harbor, we actually started looking at an underground replacement.
In a year of researching and going back and forth, we realized that was not going to be possible. We have the Port of Baltimore. We knew we'd have some interruption to their traffic.
We realized that there was so much environmental impact.
Because, the Chesapeake Bay is a treasure. The Patapsco River is part of that. And it's alive. It has lots of fish and creatures in it. We certainly didn't want to upset their chain of life.
We're constructing adjacent to where Francis Scott Key penned the national anthem back in 1814. It's always been important for us to recognize and appreciate the history of the areas next to us.
So we wanted to make sure that we weren't in any way compromising, what their views are from theirs.
It was those considerations that really took us to look more seriously at the overhead solution.
And we realized after we got out there talking, especially to the environmental community, and realized that we had to look at a possible overhead alternative, it really changed the whole game.
The bottom line is that an overhead configuration at this location is significantly less environmentally impactful. It's significantly less impactful for shipping traffic and recreational boating for that matter, and it's less costly to our ratepayers.
A key strategic decision that we made early on was to be proactive with our stakeholder outreach.
The community and our stakeholders really wanted to help us with the project. The Port of Baltimore, the Coast Guard, the Maryland pilots, they want this project to be successful too.
Stringing potentially 400-foot towers from one end of the Patapsco to the other would not be an easy feat.
Making sure we're using construction techniques and timing to avoid making an environmental impact was very important to the success of this project.
What allowed us to be successful here is that early and often outreach, sharing our designs, incorporating the feedback that we were getting from the communities that were impacted, as well as the other external stakeholders.
So we had depictions of what we expected things to look like, and then we kept talking to people over and over again.
So at the end of the day, when we go to construction, we don't have issues, we don't have concerns from the community. Ultimately, what we're building not only serves our needs, but also accommodates their concerns as well.
One of the things that we were looking for with the construction contractor was a local presence and a good marine construction experience, and a company that has the equipment, the barge-mounted cranes, and the crews that are experienced with this type of construction. And McLean brought all of that to the project team.
McLean has been a heavy marine contractor for just under 120 years now. McLean is no stranger to working on the water, especially in the Patapsco. Our yard is right on the Patapsco here, essentially.
We've broken every boundary at Valmont that we possibly could have from a design and constructability standpoint.
The size and scope of it and the fact that the towers are the highest monopole structures on this continent.
The towers themselves are almost 400 feet tall on top of the foundations, and that provides adequate clearance for cargo ships, cruise ships, anything under the sun. We've not only accounted for the height of the existing bridge, but also an expansion for a future taller bridge. So we're future-proofing this design so that when even bigger ships come into the channel, they'll be able to get in too.
The risk from ship collision was a big consideration.
The vessel collision protection, which is the large outer ring around the foundation. The complexity of that reinforcement is amazing.
We designed them to be able to resist the energy that the impacting ship could generate during a situation of an impact.
The designers created an impressive structure there for the foundation and the vessel collision protection area. To support the foundation, we drove over just under 4 miles of pile, which is about 7 million pounds of pile. It supports our precast sections. And then on top of that, you had about 2.8 million pounds of rebar and 3,800 cubic yards of concrete poured from the water. Just a lot of quantity there.
Crossing any river is a challenge in the transmission line world.
I'm actually delighted with the team spirit and cohesiveness that we've been able to develop.
Now, because of the close coordination between design team and contractor, the project is coming together really good. And I'm really proud of what we have achieved to this date.
Anytime you're working on the water, logistics are very difficult. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of coordination. A number of other factors can play a role in what you're doing day in and day out.
The tolerances on the pile had to be almost exact because when all those piles are driven, there's precast pieces that are already made that have to fit over the top of them. So you don't have any latitude in your formwork to adjust them either way. They've got to fit perfect.
We did a test fit in the factory for all of the water-based structures. We're not able to do that in our factory in a vertical position, so we had to erect the structures together in a horizontal position.
To safely string these wires to the helicopter, it was decided we would need to have safety closures. We're shutting down the Patapsco River. We're not allowing access for boats coming into the marine terminal.
The U.S. Coast Guard explained that in order for them to do that, they have to be authorized by the federal government. They actually have to have a federal law promulgated to authorize them to close the river.
To implement the river closures for construction literally takes an act of Congress.
It became law.
A lot of moving parts again, and we've got helicopters, we've got boats, we've got commercial divers, we've got pile drivers.
Once they got the poles in the air, we pretty much have to do everything with the helicopter as far as getting people and materials out there. There aren't very many other ways to reach the tops of these towers given the height and also just the access across the water. The helicopter is the most expedient and in a lot of ways the safest way to do it.
It's knowledge, it's experience, it's execution, and ultimately it's coordination. That's what made it possible.
The topping off of Towers 3 and 4 was a significant milestone and accomplishment.
When the top of Towers 3 and 4 were being lifted into place by the Manitowoc big crane, it was very special to me and the entire team.
And so when you do something right, you really set the stage for the next project that comes along.
It's a team effort. We all fit together in this mosaic that's going to produce this crossing. So yeah, it's been amazing.
I'm most proud of working with this team of professionals. Both internal leads have been phenomenal, as well as our consultant and contractor teams. It's really a team that has worked well together, and I'm just proud to have the opportunity to work with everybody.